I'm just trying to be helpful. I don't mean to do it.
How are you guys? I'm not hearing you.
Yeah. Sorry, we had it on mute. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Okay, this is
Hi, Andy. It's your cousin George.
Yeah. Hi, George. How are you?
Very well, and I'm sorry about your father.
Thank you.
how you doing?
Okay.
Good. Good. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. How's everything there?
It's
Listening.
good. It's early.
Where are you?
Japan.
Wow, it is early. I think my address book has maybe Arizona for you too, so that's out of date.
Yeah. Well,
They still have a place,
still
don't
have my
you?
place. Yeah, I still have my place in Tucson.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I thought about
So
sending
we're talking
an
to
email
Andy.
to say I was sorry when I got the news, but it seemed
Yeah.
Andy, so now here I am. I can say I'm sorry.
And everyone else.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Jody.
Hey, Andy. We are.
At least part of Jody. Hi.
It's Peppy. Peppy.
Hi, Peppy. How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you.
You're amazing.
Yeah,
When we get started, I'm going to kind of mute,
of course.
but thank you for getting up for this. I know it's early.
What time is it
It's
there?
not bad. 4.
3 o'clock. 4?
Yeah, it's 4. So, and Peppy, thank you for coming.
I wouldn't miss it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're not here, but I'm glad I'm
I too.
glad I get to see you.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, me
remember
too.
when I saw you last.
I don't either.
There's somebody else.
Andy Jones.
Hello. How are
Sorry
you?
you can't be here, but I'm glad you get to be here. The next best way.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it was a blessing to be able to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Andy. Hi, Grand Girl. This is Haviland. I'm here.
Is
Hi,
Howard?
Haviland.
Where's Howard? Oh, I see your pic. I saw your name. I didn't. Okay. Hi,
Yeah.
Haviland.
Hi.
See that.
She's right. She's got her video silent. You can hear her, but you can't see her. So
Any chance for a video, Haviland?
Not really like in a good spot to turn video on.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
where are you?
I'm in New York.
What, you're in New York?
Yes.
Oh, I have a son in New York. My son
Oh, yeah.
William is there. Named Robert. My son Robert lives there.
Yeah, I think I knew Robert was here.
Yeah, Robert's there, not William. I was just
Okay.
Robert. Just Robert. You're all looking at pictures.
Yes. Lucy's gonna say hi.
Hi, Lucy.
How are you?
I'm
What a
doing
tr-
well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Boy, it's been a
missing
long
you
time.
right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm missing being there as
Mom,
well.
have you said hi to Andy? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's good to see
thought
you.
they were trying to start, and then I realized I didn't want to miss out on seeing you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So how are you?
We brought Mama up with us, and Josephine
Yeah.
and Mary. So
Oh, good.
we were talking about family dinners in that room y'all added on that became the
Yeah.
dining room, and how I think it was Jody used to food would end up in his milk glass or something, like backwash and all that. We would have all these jokes about it.
Oh, yeah.
Silly things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good to
definitely.
see you. Want to say something else?
I think we have to sit down, but I
Yeah,
love you and I'm
okay.
really sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm
Love you
sorry you
too.
can't be here too.
Yeah,
love you.
me too. Hi, Susanna.
You could be.
Good to see you.
It would be, you're glad you can come. Has Ed seen you?
No, I don't think so.
I'll let him know you're here.
Thank you.
And Joe's right here off of you.
Yeah. Bonner's joining in.
You all have so many stories to share.
Yep.
Ed,
Hey, Andy.
looking good.
You're also talking to Bonner, Evelyn.
Leslie LeBon. Abby. Good to hear.
Dad.
Hello.
Good to see y'all's names, I'd say. So glad y'all could join us. We're gonna start here in just a minute.
Hi, Bonner.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
John, it was 9 o'clock. Start finding sleep. That one's. When we get started, I'm going.
What I'm gonna ask you to do is just check this, see if there's anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I can do that.
Fortunately, I don't know. Have to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not automatic. So I'll read your book.
Yeah, I'm gonna just take mine.
Okay.
Unless
So
you-
this is part of it.
Yes, you're doing the first. So.
Welcome. And
Yes, and then Suzanne.
welcome.
So after.
Then George and then Lucy.
Hey, what did you?
Let's say hi to Bob.
Hi.
Hi, Bonner. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are well. I know.
Hey, Mark.
Brother. Thank you so much. Nice. Hope you all are well and hope, Bonner, I hope the Kinder are well.
They are moody and rambunctious, so
Excellent.
I will keep myself mostly muted,
Well, I
but they're
look forward
good.
to seeing them. I'm, living in Egypt now and I'll move back to DC in March. And I'll
Okay.
have to come out to Dallas sometime and see them.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, we are here. We aren't traveling much, so we will be here.
Haviland, where are you off to next?
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Yes, and Aaron. Are you planning on another sojourn somewhere?
I don't think so. I think I'm state bound for a bit, just taking
Okay.
a breather.
I
Yeah.
know that feeling. I definitely know that
Yeah.
feeling. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you both for coming and step away for a second.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Begin in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for joining. Just one moment. John. Yeah. You know, but it's like, we gotta make a decision. But there's just something wrong. I think we're both. I mean, and you can shoot. So you see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, anyway, that's something.
Hey, Carol. Oh, you're on mute, but.
Hi, how are you?
Oh. How good here? I think we are. Yeah. We can, if you see someone up here at the top, and admit, just hit the admit. Okay. Yeah, very good. My partner leaves. I'll probably be there in about a minute or two, but don't let that hold you. Okay. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got some others maybe on their way, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon and welcome. On behalf of our family, we really appreciate all of y'all being here. In addition, online, we really appreciate all of y'all joining us online. And we're glad in one respect for COVID because it has provided us with this kind of Zoom opportunity. And so we are glad you're here as we get to begin. We've got some more coming in. Okay. Edwin Armstrong Price Voss, 86, entered into the presence of the Lord on January 24, 2023. Dad was born on November 19th, 1936 in Nashville, Tennessee. He was preceded in death by his wife of 63 years, Mary Owens Holmes Voss, parents Margaret Price Brown Voss and Ronald Lafayette Voss, brother Ronald Lafayette Voss Jr., and sister Lynn Voss Ewing. Dad is survived by his sons, me, Edwin Armstrong Price Voss Jr., and my wife Susanna, Andrew Owens Holmes Voss and his wife Susan, Joseph Millsaps Fitzhugh Voss and his wife Emily, and Mark Hunter Voss. Grandchildren, Edwin Armstrong Price Voss III and his wife Sarah, Bonner Voss LaBarba and her husband Alex, Haviland Grace Voss, Amy Christina Voss, Joseph Millsaps Fitzhugh Voss Jr., and John Matthew Hunter Voss, and great-grandchildren Louis Alexander LaBarba and Frances Elizabeth LaBarba. He is also survived by nephews from siblings, Ronald Lafayette Voss III, John Heron Voss, Edwin Wiley Ewing, and George Hunter Hubbard Ewing. One of Dad's favorite childhood stories he often reminisced about was an extended trip he took with his family and his beloved uncle, Ed Price, to celebrate in London during Queen Elizabeth's coronation festivities and other events when Dad was 16 years old. After graduating from Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, Dad enlisted in the Tennessee Air National Guard, serving in reserve units for several years until he was honorably discharged as Airman First Class, United States Air Force. Dad next entered Vanderbilt University in 1953, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business and was a member of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. There he met his future bride, Mary Owens Holmes. They were married and moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where Dad began his career in banking in the trust department at Union Planters National Bank. His 4 sons were also born during the years spent in Memphis. And in 1971, the family moved to Tucson, Arizona, where he continued his trust department career at Valley National Bank. Dad was a member of the Tucson Rotary Club and several service organizations. He became head of all the trust department operations at Valley National Bank's headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona, and settled in Paradise Valley until his retirement. While living in the Phoenix area, he enjoyed Western horseback riding and membership in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Posse. Dad also studied and became proficient in the art of black and white landscape photography, as well as becoming an active pilot, earning his private pilot certificate with an instrument rating. He and his son Joseph shared a deep interest in aviation. Dad made friends easily, was gifted in storytelling, and was adored by Mayo as a perfect gentleman. After retiring in 1993, Mom and Dad returned to the Nashville area, settling in Franklin, Tennessee, and enjoying their horses, dogs, cats, and large birds at their home they dubbed Full Circle Farm, a reference to starting their lives together in Nashville and then returning there. Mom and Dad found more time for travel and enjoyed countless trips in the U.S. and abroad. Eventually, the desire to settle in Delray Beach, Florida grew because Dad had spent much of his time as a boy visiting his grandmother in Delray Beach. And he loved to share stories about his childhood adventures visiting the seaside. Dad leaves a legacy to his family of demonstrating constant optimism and enjoying life in the moment, trusting God to work in all things, and extending a blessing to others by his gracious demeanor. And speaking of legacy, one of the interesting things for me as Dad's son is our shared name. We had several nicknames growing up to distinguish between us: Big Ed, Little Ed, Ed Senior, Ed Junior, and others. The name is unusually long and began with my great-grandfather, Edwin Armstrong Price. Then one of his sons, my great-uncle, Edwin Armstrong Price Jr. Then Dad, Edwin Armstrong Price Voss. Then me, Edwin Armstrong Price Voss Jr. Next is our son, Edwin Armstrong Price Voss III. Who knows if that will continue? Time will tell. But family names are memorable, cherished, honored, and important sometimes in our identity. I became a Christian through the efforts of my parents, and my identity is more meaningful in my relationship with Jesus Christ than my earthly family. And Dad was also a believer in Jesus, which the Bible tells us is the name above all names, and the name by which we are saved, and the name by which every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. To conclude, I'll read a verse from the book of John, in chapter 11, verses 25 and 26. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies, and whoever lives and believes in me will never die." We can trust in that promise.
A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 61, verses 1 through 3. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who mourn in Zion, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, to display his glory.
A reading from the first letter of John, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is.
A reading from the book of John, chapter 14, verses 1 through 6. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
I want to thank you all for coming to honor my father and to be here as we celebrate his life. I've thought about this over the past few days, about how best to remember Dad, and many things have crossed my mind on how best to do this and to honor the memory of him. I've actually thought about this for years, wondering when the time came, what do we say? What is there to say? Well, here we are. So I hope this is everything it can be. We'll do our best, and just to give him the honor and to let him know how much we loved him. As I remember Dad, and through the grief and the tears, I'm reminded of a comment once made by General George S. Patton. He said, "It is foolish to mourn the passing of great people. Rather, we should thank God that such men lived. So in this context, I'd like to take a few minutes and thank God for the life of Ed Voss. Dad was a great man. He was a successful trust banker, an accomplished pilot, an avid horseman, a talented photographer. He inspired us with his mechanical capabilities. He was a devoted family man, and underlying it all, as my mother would say, a perfect gentleman. He also exhibited great faith in Jesus. And I think these two core fundamentals, his being a gentleman and his faith, guided his decisions in his life, and much of his character and personality seems to come from this foundation. When we say that he was a gentleman, we see that in so many ways. He was considerate, he was kind, he was faithful and loyal. He knew how to treat people well. He acted with decorum, and he was the epitome of the statement that says, few people will remember what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel. People felt good about my dad. They felt good being around him, and this sense of how to act and how to behave was central to his life. My dad also had a great sense of humor. He loved a great joke, and he loved to find humor in both light and serious situations. I recently connected with an old friend who reminded me, and I had not remembered this, of how Dad liked to create a spook house at Halloween, creating all sorts of scary and goofy things down the hallway of our house in Memphis. I also think that the phrase dad jokes originated with Ed Voss. He was corny, but I liked it. He also commented about how when men first came back from the moon and had to quarantine, he said they were worried about lunatics. He laughed at his own jokes more than anyone else, which was funny. Dad had a great career. He excelled in his role as a trust officer, engaging trust customers and helping them with their estate and other life planning. In visiting with Dad, especially over the last few years, he would tell stories about his days in Memphis with union planners, as well as in Arizona at Valley Bank. Sometime early in his career, he said that he and others were selected for testing to determine their qualifications for being computer programmers. The bank was automating their systems, and IBM was looking for programmers in the bank. Dad said he took a battery of tests and said, well, they didn't ask me back. That's okay. I'm not good at programming either. That was when he moved into trust work. Another memory he shared is when he managed the trust of Edith Davis, the mother of Nancy Reagan. In the mid-'80s, Mrs. Davis passed away, so Mom and Dad were invited to the funeral. Dad said that Ron and Nancy were gracious hosts, personally thanking him for taking care of his mother-in-law. He cherished that memory and loved to talk about it. Dad was a great storyteller and could spin yarns for hours and hours, but he was good at it. One story he liked to tell was about an old couple who came in as trust customers. He said that they needed estate planning and wanted Dad to help them figure out what to do for when they got sick and if they died. Dad liked to say, you got that backwards. Dad was also a leader in the community, serving on symphony and hospital boards. He was a leader in Rotary. He joined the Maricopa County Mounted Sheriff's Posse, using his skills as a horseman and a pilot in searches and rescues, both on the ground and in the air. Dad and I shared quite a few interests in life. One of them was the love of aviation. From an early age, Dad was very interested in flying, and once told me that as a boy, he set up the stick and rudders on the ground so he could pretend that he was flying. He kept that interest alive. When I was in high school, I took a discovery flight to see what flying was like. I came home full of enthusiasm. I had not told Mom and Dad what I was doing that afternoon. And so when I told them, Dad's reaction surprised me. No, I wasn't in trouble. And yes, let's go through flight training together. Dad never let me forget that he scored higher on the written exam, but I did take my check ride before he did. We shared our flying experiences for many years, especially when he bought his Cessna 210. I remember many fun memories with Dad and with that airplane. Dad was also an accomplished horseman. He was exposed to horses and riding at a young age. And in the early 1980s, he and Mom rekindled their interest in riding, acquiring several horses and becoming very active in the equine community. I was able to join him on several rides in the deserts and mountains of Arizona, again, building great memories. I enjoyed sharing that interest with him over the years. Dad was also a talented photographer. He used to tell stories of his time in the Tennessee Air National Guard. where his role was to load film canisters into fighter jets. The Guard was conducting extensive aerial photography of the US, and his Guard work supported this. In addition to the loading the film, he also processed it in the Guard darkrooms. Like flying in horses, he kept that spark alive, and when the opportunity arose, he became immersed in learning advanced black and white, large format photography. He produced some incredible artwork, and I think he liked the process as much as he liked the outcome. Dad and I shared our passion for creating interesting images, and much of what I do today is inspired by his success. As recently as this past year, the team at Abbey Del Rey asked if they could use his artwork to decorate part of the facility. Today, many of his prints adorn the walls there, bringing brightness to that world. Dad's varied interest exemplified how diverse and capable he was. He loved to tinker with things, fix things, and his workbench in the garage displayed this. There's stuff everywhere. But he taught us very valuable lessons: how to figure out how to get things done, how to fix things, to understand mechanics, and just overall be a better person. I remember several times him building tree forts, adding a roof deck, building sheds, working on trailer lights, fixing flats. The quintessential image of Ed Voss is kneeling down to fix something, but first folding his handkerchief and dropping it underneath his knee. We learned so much from him, and for that, we're very grateful. I think it's also safe to say my dad was a great husband and father. He was always very supportive of my mom, and he was a great family leader, and he took care of his children. When we were young, some of us faced health issues, and my parents took great steps to take care of us, including weeks-long trips to Arizona when allergies threatened our well-being. And then after several years of doing that, making a very bold move out west. Despite this being a huge change, he and mom made the best of it, and ultimately we all benefited from the opportunities and life experiences we enjoyed. I think the change helped him realize many of his other active pursuits. As I mentioned how much I enjoyed sharing interests with Dad, I know that my brothers all enjoyed some or many of these. Mark became a great writer and photographer. Ed took up photography and flying helicopters. And perhaps Dad's messy workbench inspired Andy as he became a rocket scientist. I think we all have fond memories of how he touched our lives. One person he touched, one of my mom and dad's dear friends, reached out to me just yesterday and offered up such kind words that I want to share these with you. I'd like to read a text from Caroline Bartish. Dear Jody, I just want you to know how very sorry I was to hear about your father. Over the years, he was always so very kind to me, and he always exhibited a calm and steady demeanor, always showed deep wisdom, skillfully seasoned with a subtle sense of humor, even as a young man. His unwavering Christian faith was always an inspiration to me. What an ability to adapt he and your mom had, how they seemingly overnight were able to leave the genteel Southern culture they had always known and wholeheartedly embrace Western life in Tucson. Never looking back, that was amazing to me. Then moving again to Scottsdale and finally to Delray Beach, always with an amazing ability to adapt, and accomplished beyond the reach of many. I especially loved hearing about his being part of the sheriff's posse in Maricopa County. Your father's Christian faith carried over into all areas of his life, and others noticed. He didn't have to say a word about his faith. It was just there for all to see. His accomplishments range from his successful career as a banker to being an excellent horseman to skillfully captaining his Aprea Mari cruiser. Yes, my dad was a sailor too. I will always treasure the memories I have of him and your mom, and will be thinking of you all tomorrow. Especially, I wish I could be there with you. You, Ed, Andy, and Mark are in my thoughts and prayers. With much love and sympathy to you, Caroline Bartish. I know that I've gone on for a bit, but at last I wanted to share some thoughts about my recent time with my dad. We lost mom 2 years ago, but she really left the scene almost a year before that. She was in and out of facilities, so much so that Dad rarely got to see her for almost 9 months before she passed. During that time, and over the last 2 years, I was able to get to Florida and spend time with Dad and see how he was doing. Right after losing mom, he didn't do so well. His grief and loneliness took its toll, and he slipped into a fog that worried us all. We moved him out of his apartment and into the health center where he had more contact with others and he could be more active. During this time, I got to see much more of his character and personality Again, his positive traits shining through. Everyone who met him commented on what a kind and caring man he was, how he loved to tell large tales, how he exhibited his leadership. He was even elected to the leader of the residence floor, whatever that did. But again, it was Ed Voss shining through. I also got to spend time talking with him about memories, common interests, and whatever else we could say while enjoying time together. He asked about me, Emily, our house, things that were going on. In some ways, I felt like I got to know him all over again. And that was a great gift to me. I think it made it easier as we moved from apartment to hospitals to the health center, wherever he was getting care, and that he never complained, and he was always kind to everyone. And I miss him. I think we all do. But miss him as we do, I again thank God that he lived, that he was such an amazing man, banker, pilot, horseman, photographer, consummate gentleman, but mostly our dad. I know that he's now with Jesus and spending time with beloved Mayo. Thank you.
Excuse me, one. Thank you, Jody. A reading from the book of Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Jody and Ed, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Jody, my words shall be a bit redundant because you stated them so eloquently, and I thank you for that. Nor my words as well organized as yours. I guess I just wrote what I thought would be a letter to Dad. And Dad, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this, but I will try. Dad, no one tells you that when you lose your father. Let me rephrase that. They say when you die, your whole life passes in front of you. And no one tells you that when your parent dies. Your life replays the whole life in your mind, at least for me it did. It plays in your whole mind because you're panning and sifting and prospecting for memories and trying to find the gold nuggets that you can take with you and that will never leave you. And so these past several days, I have walked with you, Dad, in my heart and in my mind, to find and take with me the best of you and your influence on our lives. Your influence and legacy are both great and will be long-lasting, and for that, I am grateful. I am very grateful by your example and your instructions, you were such a great Christ-like witness. The thing I love most about you is how kind-hearted and loving you were to us and to all who knew you and loved you. Yours is such a gentle, gentle soul. We miss so much, but we'll always cherish. Also, I'm so grateful for the passions and loves you had in life because they blazed so many trails for us in our lives and influenced and shaped us greatly. As Jody had mentioned, your love of flying was something that you and Jody shared and no doubt influenced your granddaughter, Amy, in her career as a pilot. Your love of history inspired us as well. I think all four of us have a love of history because of you. And I never would have taught history at the middle school level or at the college level had it not been for that passion that you shared with us. Likewise, through your photography, you helped us see the beauty of the world, the beauty of God's creation. And through your eyes, we saw this. And that was especially impactful for Jody and me. And as Jody mentioned, your sense of humor. Some of us continue your traditions of telling dad jokes, although none of us will laugh as hard at our own jokes as you did. I will miss your beautiful, happy smile, the light in your eyes, and the way you would clap your teeth together when you'd laugh at your own jokes. And lastly, I'm so grateful that you were the consummate gentleman that you were. In the past number of days, so many of my friends have contacted me and telling me how much they loved what a gentleman you were. It was a pure extension of your gentle, loving, and caring nature. And your legacy here influences us and will long influence future generations of bosses, I'm sure. There is so much more that I and all of us here want to tell you, what to thank you for. But this is a conversation that does not have to end today. You shall always be with us. You shall always continue to shape, inspire, and uplift us. And we shall always be comforted by the fact that your memory, your presence, your love are never far away. We shall always be grateful for what you have done for us, and we shall always love you and miss you. God bless you and thank you. And Jody, I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. Sorry. Oh Lord, my God. That's not the right one. I apologize, everyone. No. I'm so sorry. I just lost the in the garden. I'm so sorry.
There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to tear down, and a time to build, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of this earthly life. We thank you for the life of Ed Voss, for the years you gave him and us, and the character that you shaped in him. We thank you for his life, for every memory of love and joy, for every good deed and every sorrow shared with us. We thank you for the rest in Christ he now enjoys. We thank you for giving him to us for a time. And we praise you for the glory we share together. We shall share together for eternity through Jesus Christ our Lord. We'll close with my dad's favorite hymn.
So. Then.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and celebrating the life of my dad. This is what we have prepared for today. And for those who are online, thank you for joining. We did record this, so the recording of the service will be available. We are next headed to Mount Olivet Cemetery for a 3 o'clock graveside service. And for those who can make it, we appreciate it. For those who traveled a long way, I understand. So thank you for coming. We'll have a few minutes, obviously, to visit and join here. And for those online, again, thank you. We're going to conclude this broadcast. And again, thanks for being here and loving my father. Thank you.